Hi guys, this is Michelle. Hope you're all doing okay and your families. I'm just wondering if you could talk about how you stay motivated. I think, even for those of us that are doing jobs that are currently ongoing, like me as a journalist, it's hard to stay focused. I'm just wondering how you guys are managing to stay focused when you don't even know when you're going to start training again as a team and when your next game is. There's just so much. It's such a fluid situation and so many questions still. How are you dealing with that?
That's a really good question, and I think that the focus isn't going to be the same, but what the training staff has done, which has allowed us to continue to train, is they provided us a training regimen and GPS pods to provide the oversight, I guess, in a way to make sure we do it each day. But it's an unprecedented situation, and it's not one that we've been in ever before. And I think it's not just the player pool, but the entire world. And so as we're dealing with it, we know that it's less than ideal, and it's really tough at times to even find a place to train. But the most important thing is that we continue to follow what our officials are telling us and practice social distancing and stay at home while carving out time in our day to go and do the training regimen. And right now, most of it is just running, which is easy. You can do that on the street. You could do it on a strip of grass, which these days is really hard to find, but we make do. And then a couple of days each week, there's a strength portion, so you can do that at home. And I don't have weights at home, so one of the examples that's been used when it comes to resistance training is filling up a milk jug, a gallon, and using that as a weight. So I use it for some of the exercises, but it is a creative way to do the training. But nonetheless, simply to answer your question, the focus is never going to be perfect, but because of the training regimen, it allows us to continue to train.
Thank you, Luis. The next question for you is from Ryan with Goal.com.
Hey, Luis. Just at this time of year, normally it's kind of the start of a real grind. You're getting ready for road trips and training and film, and especially with an expansion team, I'm sure you were expecting that to be a key part of your year. But obviously, it's hard to take positives for this. But as someone with a young family and getting to be in this situation, I'm sure this isn't something you were necessarily expecting, but I'm sure that kind of keeps you grounded and opens it up. What's that like, kind of having such an unexpected situation, but also kind of getting that family time that maybe you didn't expect to have?
It's been an adventure. It's been fun. And I think the one thing that has been apparent to my wife and myself is that we're not cut out for homeschooling, but we are making adjustments and we are learning on the fly. And the real big positive, as you had mentioned, is we get to spend a lot of family time together. And whether that's doing puzzles or just being outside riding our bikes, another thing that we're really thankful for is the weather here is amazing. Living in Jersey for the last 7.5 years, we're used to March being cold and gray and drab. But because of our current situation, we're really grateful for the sunshine and it being 80 degrees and just being outside riding bikes or walking as a family, just being in front of our house and shooting hoops. So it is definitely different, and it's not what anyone could have expected. But you're right, there's a really huge positive in all of it, is that we get to spend a lot of time as a family, and that's something that we are grateful for.
Thank you. The next question is from Kobe with the Sun Sentinel.
Hey, Luis, it's Kobe. I hope you and your family are all doing as well as possible with everything going on. I wanted to ask, considering the timing of the suspension of the season, is it frustrating, especially because it came literally right before the home opener? And Diego said that each player or position group has their own individualized workouts. What have you been working on the most?
Well, unfortunately, the quick answer to that last part for you is running, which I just am not a runner by any stretch of the imagination. And yet there's some guys that live close to me, and so we go out each morning and we run, and just running with them keeps me motivated and keeps me sort of held accountable, because they're really quick and they're really in better shape than I am. When I consider what a real professional athlete's like, I look at these guys and I think, wow, that's pretty incredible how they're able to fulfill some of these workouts. But it's motivating, and it allows me to work on a part of my game that gets often overlooked. The endurance part, obviously, as a goalkeeper, there's different requirements for us to compete at a high level. But the one thing that I will say is, over the last 2 weeks doing these workouts, this is probably an aspect of my training regimen that I could look to include once things do get back to normal. And of course, there's going to be some disappointment, because it was a really, really historical moment for the club and this entire community for soccer to be back in South Florida, and for this organization to have their first ever home opener. But when you look at the bigger picture, you understand that there's bigger things than soccer right now. And when you're able to really understand that, then you know that there'll be another soccer game and there'll be another home opener. But the most important thing is, as a community, we do what's necessary so that we can flatten the curve and get back to normalcy.
Thank you. The next question is from Franco with FBI Soccer.
What's up, Luis? Saw you had some car trouble today. Hope everything's sorted. I wanted to ask two quick ones for you. Obviously, just the first one, just how much do you, and I'm sure the rest of the guys, miss the game right now? How much of not even being able to train and be around each other? How much are you guys missing that right now? And then just, I know you touched on it a couple of times already, the training regimen and the way you guys are working on things. But if you could touch a little bit more on it and give us some more detail, what is it that you guys are required to do on the day? I know you said running has been a big part of it, but is it distance running one day, or is it endurance? Is it time? Like how are the workouts being broken down or specified for your guys' needs?
So I didn't even realize that you could lock yourself out of cars anymore. and this morning I found that out real quick at the expense of everyone else's time, that I can lock myself out of my car. So in the end, we resolved it, but it made for an interesting morning and a funny story. But to answer your questions, what they've done is they've tailored each day to focus on endurance or strength or agility or speed. And so if it's a Monday, then it could be an endurance day. If it's a Tuesday, it could be an agility day, and so forth, right? And so they've tried to keep it fresh. At the end of the day, it is still running and it is still a workout. So there's going to be that challenge to it. But they're doing everything they can to keep it fresh. And I think they've done a really good job. Now, of course, I'm very fortunate that a couple of the guys do live close to me. And so we can go and run as a group, and we meet in the morning and we bang it out. But it's difficult. I mean, as a competitor, you want to be playing games. You want to be training and getting ready for the next match. But again, like, if you can take a step back and you realize just the severity of what's going on, then soccer, it falls in line with not being the priority right now, and we understand that. And I was on a conference call yesterday with the reps from each team, and the call was led by the commissioner. And it was a great opportunity for us to just hear information coming directly from his mouth. And you definitely get the sense that he is working around the clock. And when you consider his job, it's not just commissioner of MLS. It's, he leads Soccer United marketing. He sits on the board of U.S. Soccer. And he's constantly corresponding with all these owners around the league while trying to get real-time information to understand what that means and the implications going forward for our season. And so I don't want to get too far into it, because maybe there's some information that he wants to be able to highlight himself. But I know that they're looking at every option and every scenario possible so that we can get a full season, so that we can end up competing not only at the highest level, but where the quality doesn't come into question. And as you guys can imagine, there's going to be some real factors that affect it. But just even hearing him speak, I think a lot of guys on that call felt, one, more confident in his leadership, and then two, really understanding that there's a lot that's going into it, and they have to take all those things into consideration. But each and every day, with the information that they're getting, they're trying to piece together what the rest of the season is going to look like. And so we know that sooner or later we'll get back to normal, and what it's going to look like on the other side, we're not entirely sure. But guys are looking forward to that. I know I'm looking forward to it. And when we get there, then we're going to be able to compete again. But right now, the most important thing is we're not soccer players. We're human beings. We're citizens of this community. And we need to do whatever it takes to, as I said before, flatten the curve and get back to normalcy. And if it means that we don't train, if it means that we have to social distance ourselves, then that's what we'll do. Because in the end, when we get on to the other side, there will be a season, there will be games, and we will compete.
Thank you. The next question is from Gabriel with MLSsoccer.com.
Hey, Luis, how are you? So we've spoken about the timing of when the season got suspended and how disappointing that may have been. With all this time that has surpassed since, have you guys gained like a new perspective toward the rest of the season, reflecting on those first two games? I'm sure there's been plenty of time to dissect every detail and look back at tape and really study those two matches. Is there, a certain feeling within the team, for better or for worse, after watching those two games and really sitting with those two matches?
Something I forgot to mention on Franco's question, and it goes along with your question, is the thing I miss the most is actually the locker room, the camaraderie amongst the guys. And we have a group text that is ongoing with banter, but it's just not the same, right? Like you're not going to have that personal element where we're in the locker room, we're on the training field and just bantering about. So that I definitely miss. And even though we have these individual training regimens, and each group, whether you're a midfielder or winger or outside back or center back or attacker, they have Zoom meetings. And so it's in these meetings they have the opportunity to interact with one another, to watch film, to look and dissect and evaluate certain aspects of our games. You still miss that whole group feel, that whole team feel. But it is amazing in 2020 what resources are out there, so that even in light of this situation, we can conduct business and we can continue to look incrementally how we can improve as a team. And I think Diego and the training staff has done a great job of not only engaging players, but using those resources to keep the education going. So, of course, it's never going to replace the entire group being in a classroom watching film together and then going out into the fields and actually bring it into life. But when you consider the circumstances, it's pretty cool some of the things that we're able to do now. And it just continues on what this process is like as a team as we try to get better, as we try to improve for those first two games. And so specifically, there isn't necessarily something I could just point out right now to answer that question. But because of the resources, we are able to look at those games and evaluate how we can continue to get better.
Thank you. And we'll take one more question for Luis from Hal with the Palm Beach Post.
Hi, Luis. Two-part question for you. Going back to the call you had with Don Garber, how would you categorize his tone? Was it one of optimism or was it one of great concern? Where was he in that regard? And secondly, you guys were so close to finally having your home opener. I'm sure you guys could taste it. And now we're obviously having to wait for very good reasons. What is that going to feel like when you finally do get a chance to play before your home crowd, you think?
Before I answer those questions, I appreciate you guys taking the time to just cover the team and continue to provide the coverage that is necessary in this time to keep us relevant. And I hope all you stay safe and continue to be healthy. But now getting back to the questions, the home opener part, of course, is disappointing, but you can only be so disappointed because you understand the context for it not happening. And so I guess our concern going forward is when they finally piece it all together and we do have that home opener, what's that going to look like? Right? That's something that you really have to consider. Is it behind closed doors where it's just on TV, or are they going to open it up? And I really hope it is the second, but I think right now they don't have all the information to even make that decision. And so you do hope that it ends up being a momentous occasion that includes the entire soccer community where people are there and you can really feel the passion that our fans have really gained in momentum over the last couple of years and really over the last couple of months, so that they get to celebrate that moment with us when we step onto the field and we do have that home opener. But I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, I can only hope in the end that it ends up being like that, but we'll see what ends up culminating in the end. But the fact of the matter is there will be that moment. There will be that moment that finally the fans are there and all the supporters groups are there and the season ticket holders and we're there and we get to have that moment. And maybe it's not going to be as drawn up as it previously would have been, but nonetheless it'll happen and it'll be a great occasion. And then speaking to Don Garber, it was very professional. And I think the reason, just even hearing some of the feedback from the players afterwards, that it was so positive is because we don't always hear from him, right? He's our leader. He's the leader of the league. And even though we have Bob Futh, who's the director of the Players Association, and we have our own team reps, and we have our coaches, and we have our GMs, it's just different hearing from that guy. Like, he's at the very top of the food chain. And so for him to take the time to speak to the reps, I think also speaks to his understanding of the situation and speaking to our humanity beyond just being players. And so listening to him speak, you get the sense that they are working tirelessly to absorb all the information and to make the good decisions. But a lot of it is also just their hands are tied. The moment the CDC said 8 weeks, no mass gatherings, they wanted to respect that and they wanted to abide by it. And so from there, they're looking, what does that deadline look like for us, where it is the point where we're not going to have a 34-game season. They're looking at every scenario. And so even for him to run through all of that and then to run through all his bullet points, we just felt like we got a better sense of how the league is functioning and how it's working. And even though everyone is in their different houses or home offices, there seems to be mass communication going on, because even after our call, he was getting on a call with the board of governors and all the owners. So I imagine that he has been working in all the phone lines, corresponding with as many people as possible. But my general sense afterwards, and even hearing from some of the other players that were on the call, is it was refreshing to hear from him. And even some of the information we already knew coming from the Players Association, but still to hear it from him gives us even more confidence that we can go back to our team and share the information and try to answer as many questions as possible in a very uncertain time.
Oh, hey, Will, how you doing? Lewis was quite interesting then, just talking about how he's training, and he hasn't got any weights at home, so he's using like I think he said like a pitcher of milk or something like that. Have you found sort of novel ways to keep yourself ticking over with obviously no pitches and obviously no gyms or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Steve. It is an exercise in how to be creative. I mean, I think for myself, using a lot of body weight things, but also honestly utilizing the availability of ordering things online and finding, kind of building your own home gym, so to speak, has been something I've wanted to do for a while, but then this has kind of prompted it as a necessity to maintain fitness, strength, and all of those things. And I think the club has done an excellent job of providing us the resources necessary to not only keep up with what the training program should be from a aerobic capacity, but also from an anaerobic capacity with at-home lifts and videos provided to keep guys accountable, but also give us a picture of what we should be doing every single day as the weeks unfold, because the physical aspect of this is so massively important. Of course, the mental aspect is also weighing on us in terms of how you're dealing with not being able to see your teammates, not being able to have the facilities that we're used to. But I think the club has done an excellent job of allowing us to sidestep that in positive ways.
Thank you, Steve. The next question is from Michelle Kaufman with the Miami Herald.
Hi, Will. I think when you talk about, video, I guess, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, Michelle.
You can shut me off. Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Okay.
Luis mentioned something about GPS pad or something. Are the coaches monitoring to make sure that players are doing the workouts? How's that happening?
Yeah, so just think of it as the same way we would do at training. We wear GPS vests with a GPS pod designated to the individual, and we picked those up last week in kind of a scheduled drive-through menu type of setup at the training facility. And every day we're given runs through a team app that we use, and it's, I don't know if Luis specified, but it's via your position. So central defenders, outside backs, midfielders, etc., all have differing running programs each day of the week, and we've been instructed to wear these GPS pods during those running workouts so they can log the right amount of distance and all those sorts of things.
Thank you, Michelle. The next question will be from Gabriel with MLSsoccer.com.
Hey, Will, how are you? Thanks for taking the time. Hope everything's well. Two questions. Has David Beckham or Jorge Mas been in communication with you guys? Have you received any messages from them? And second, if you had to be quarantined with anyone from the team, who would you most like for that to be, and who would you least like for that to be, and why?
Sure. Great questions, Gabe. So first and foremost, I was so impressed with Jorge and David and how they approached this entire ordeal from the beginning. I mean, look, the anticipation going into the LA Galaxy game was high for the entire club, for the city, and especially for us as players. And what I found so touching, so big of our ownership group was the fact that they came to us on the field on Thursday before the news was out in the media that the game would be suspended, that this quarantine, so to speak, for the country was going to derail a little bit of our season. And to have the personal connection, the personal touch of them coming to us, I think was something that you don't always get from ownership groups. And I know every single player sitting there, seeing them in person, it was a big moment that they took the time to do so. As it pertains to quarantining with a teammate, my wife and I actually had this competition of our friends who would we want to quarantine with. Obviously, your wife and son are top of the list, but when it comes to teammates, I would want to go with someone who's a little bit like myself. I actually lived with Lewis Morgan a little bit before all this stuff broke out and before I closed on my house. So Lewis would be an easy one for me. We kind of are on the same wavelength on how we operate. Who I wouldn't want to be with, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on people's living habits, so I couldn't tell you at this moment. But yeah, it's a new experience for all of us. I'm sure you guys feel the same, and you just try every single day to put on a brave face and move forward and thank those that are on the front lines of this because they're doing amazing work, and we have to do our part as well of staying at home, and we'll get over this. And when that day comes that we have the home opener, I know that the feeling in the stadium, the feeling of rejoice for us as players, as well as everyone that's been counting and looking forward to that day, will certainly be high.
Thank you. The next question is from Colby Price with the South Florida Sun-Sentinel.
Hey, Will. I hope everything's going well with you and your family, considering what's going on. I was wondering for you specifically, Diego said that the workouts are specified for position and per person.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been focusing on? What's been emphasized for you and what you've been doing to stay ready?
Yeah, Colby. So for midfielders in particular, it's so much a running-based position, right? So for us, maintaining that level of aerobic capacity has been key, and it's done in multiple ways. So I don't know if Luis spoke about just how the week is mirrored on our training programs, but it's very much how a normal training week would be if we were still at the training facility anticipating a game. And the idea is when it's a endurance day, we have a mixture of shorter runs and then a longer term run over distance for time and those sorts of things. So I think it's for us it's maintaining that threshold and that capacity while also incorporating things like speed and agility work and change of direction within the limitations of what you can find, because the biggest issue is finding adequate running space in terms of on-field type of stuff for change of direction. So you have to be creative with those. But for midfielders, it's very much, okay, here's 50 meters at 10 seconds for this amount of runs, and then we'll do sprints for another amount of reps and so on and so forth, depending on what the day is within the week.
Thank you. The next question is from Jose with Deportes Total.
Hi, Will. Hi, everybody. Will, I wanted to ask you about the schedule, and do you think it would be a good idea to stay away maybe from Open Cup and just concentrate on the MLS regular season? There are talks about the season going all the way to December. What do you think is the best way to go at it?
Yeah, it's good. It's a great question, Jose. Look, it's certainly, and I think Luis probably touched on the meeting that they had with Don Garber and the league and all of the options that are being exhausted to understand and find the best way to move forward. And I think for us as players, the league and trying to find a way to fit 34 games in will certainly be a priority. I mean, it truly is. That's our main competition, so to speak, as MLS players. But how that works with other competitions, it's hard to look at exactly how that will shape out, because we're still waiting on the timetable of when we can even start back training. So stretching the season into December, I think for most of us that have been in the league, that's not too different for us, I guess you could say, because outside of last year, the season in MLS Cup had always stretched into December. So playing that late isn't too much an adjustment, but it will be interesting to see how the Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday midweek games and those sorts of scenarios will play out if we do fit in all 34 games.
Thank you. The next question is from Mike Cugno with CBS Miami.
Hey, well, sorry, a couple of questions here. The first one is, once you guys, obviously we saw the moratorium today about practices being pushed back to at least April 3rd. How long would you feel just getting back in that routine of training to feel like you're in mid-season form again? How long do you think it would take for most guys? And you mentioned the commissioner, trying to get in 34 games. Just from what you've heard from Luis, is there a confidence around players in the league that feel like that this is actually going to happen?
Yeah, Mike, great question on the first one. I think, look, that it'll be interesting to see what the timetable is on another preseason, so to speak, because as much as you want every guy in the league to be ready as soon as we can start training and as soon as the 2 weeks, 3 weeks it is before a game begins, or maybe even a month, you just don't know how long this will stretch, how long and how disciplined guys have been in the time in between. I think for us as a group, like I said earlier, it's been great to have a training program that is detailed, that it feels organized in the sense of we will be ready to go as soon as we can get back training to build back what little we've lost, hopefully little we've lost based on how we've been training on our own. But it's all speculation, of course. But to the second question, I think we as players, Luis does an amazing job of keeping us all up to date through a group chat that we have as a team, and the confidence I felt from him yesterday after the meeting with the commissioner was certainly something that was buoying spirits in terms of the league is hard at work. They're hard at work trying to find solutions, despite the fact that they're grasping at timelines that are unknown at the moment. And I think knowing that and feeling that from Luis kind of by osmosis allows the rest of us to continue to feel buoyed about, okay, when we do get back to playing, there will be a plan in place. Is it 34 games? Is it less? We don't know, of course, but at least there will be a feeling and a sentiment of they've done everything they possibly can to fit in the 34 games, and if that doesn't work, then we're still going to be trying to perform and win and move forward with this inaugural season for Inter Miami.
Thank you. We'll take 2 more questions, starting with Ryan from Goal.com.
Hey, Will, you mentioned earlier your wife and son, and obviously you had your son later last year, and I'm sure it's been kind of a whirlwind for you since, with the trade and everything like that. But, this is a sort of unexpected time to be with them. What has that been like for you and your wife, and how have you kind of handled all that, being home and getting to be a part of all that?
Yeah, Ryan, it's been amazing. Honestly, it's interesting because preseason is such a difficult time when you have a family, because you're away from them for 6-7 weeks, and I know for us, being traded in the midst of preseason was another wrinkle, and with my son now being 5 months old, that's a whole nother beast, to be honest. And now it is a little bit of Groundhog Day every day, but it's been amazing to see and be with them and kind of spend the family time that we usually don't get to have. And for us settling and getting used to life here in Florida, albeit a different type of life than we expected at the moment, it's been a blessing, so to speak, that we've had the family time. But that doesn't change the fact that we want to be back on the field doing what we love to do every single day. It's just something that God has allowed us to have at this moment, and I'm thankful for the time with them.
Thank you. And the last question is from Franco with SBIsoccer.com.
Hey, Will. What's up, man? How are you?
Franco, what's up, man?
All right, so we've got two quick ones for you. MLS has made it clear in its press releases that it wants to try and play a complete season this year with all 34 games. And Luis talked about one possibility being playing games behind closed doors with no fans in the stands. Mm-hmm. Hypothetically, if that were to come to pass, what do you think that'd be like as a player, and how do you think you would take that? Obviously, it'd be unprecedented pretty much in MLS standards. I know it happens throughout the world, but in MLS, it's not something that we've seen over the years. And then just the second one, unrelated. Diego said yesterday on the conference call we had with him that on top of the exercise and workout plans, you guys are having tactical talks, either by position or by lines. What have you guys talked about in that regard? What have you guys analyzed? Has it been video homework or footage shown during these video conferences you're having? Sorry, the dog's barking.
No, it's all right. Yeah, both really good questions. I think to the first, it would be certainly unprecedented to play if we had to behind closed doors with no fans. I think as players, so much of what we love is to be in stadiums with people supporting us, and for that not to occur would be something that we would all wrestle with, I think, for sure. At the same time, your job obligates you to do things that certainly in these confines and in these times could be different than what you expected or what you want. But I think in the sense of we do have to look first and foremost at the safety, not only as professionals and fans and those types of divides, but more as just human beings and what makes sense, and we need to take care of each other. And if that means we play games behind closed doors, then that's a hurdle that we'll cross when we get there. And then as it pertains to what Diego spoke about, I think it's been, to touch on, obviously, like I said earlier about the physical side of things and those training programs by position, what's impressed me the most about this time off is how our coaching staff has really rallied to not only bring information to the fore for us to continue to learn and adapt and grow our game model, because look, we're an expansion team with new players, a new coach, and a new model of play, and the growth as a group is so important each and every day. And when you're not together, you need to find ways to continue to bridge that gap. And I think they've done an amazing job. Just to give you an example, for the holding midfield, for the midfielders, we have video conference meetings. We go over aspects and keys to our game model, both from an attacking and defensive posture. And then we are given clips. We have to then analyze the clips and give solutions, whether it's a positive clip because of the filters we've been looking at, or a negative clip because of the filters we've been looking at. And I think in this way, we're having to continue to think about the game and then also learn what is expected of each position in these experiences and in these examples. And for me, it's stimulating to have homework, so to speak, soccer homework, which you don't always think about. And that's a great way for us to stay engaged, for us to converse, and to be together in a way that even though we're apart, we can still grow and learn and fine tune our ideas.